So Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. At least that's what he's saying that other people want. Take a look.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense. And
So Micah, what the hell? Why is he saying that? Kind of
It's
concerning.
funny. So there's always a lot of people talking to Trump at all times, right? There's always a lot of people tell me whatever he wants to say. And my question is like, presumably the people that talk to him are folks in his administration. So let's take Trump at his word, right? Let's say a lot of people are telling Trump that they want a dictator. Doesn't that practically mean that a lot of people in his administration are saying that they want a dictator? Like, who else is talking to this guy? Just random American citizens are calling him up. It's not like he's going and just talking to folks on the street. So
Well, so
if what he's saying is true, it's extremely concerning. But it's also obviously not true. A lot of people are not saying that. Nobody's saying that. And it's very concerning that he's thinking about that.
So if we're going to take him at his word and believe that Trump is hearing this from a lot of people, the only people who would be saying that to him are probably Stephen Miller, or it's actually the replies in his Truth Social, which is actually where he spends the majority of his time, which is reading and posting at like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. That's where this guy's, that's where his focus is. It's not like on running the country, or it's not like on, making the groceries less expensive. It's literally just tweeting on Truth Social and talking about if Taylor Swift is hot or not. That's where
But
his
I
objective
spend a
is.
lot of time on Truth Social, like, I put in my hours on that
I'm so
wonderful
sorry for you, man.
on that wonderful
How do you
website.
do that?
And, there's a lot of crazy stuff on there, but I don't think that most people in the comments of Trump's like page are saying, please be dictator forever, right? They might say, Trump 2028, right? They might say something like that,
Which
own the
is
libs,
which is
send
kind of saying it.
send
It's
the
kind of
police
saying
in,
it.
whatever. But they don't say, please be king daddy. They might say daddy, but they don't say please be king
Yeah.
usually. It just doesn't make sense in context.
Right.
So the most likely explanation is that he's just making that up, right? He says a lot of people tell me stuff all the time. He's been saying this since 2016. Anybody who's been paying attention knows that he says that really just to introduce something that he's thinking about. And my question is, why does he keep coming back to this, right? Because this isn't the first time he's gotten to this position. He said previously, only on day one, right? I'd like to be a dictator only on day one. This is like a reoccurring concept, and it's like, me and you know that we're constantly accused of being insane, deranged, radical liberals
Oh
who
yeah,
have
all
their
the time.
hair on fire all the time because we think Trump wants to be a dictator. Meanwhile, he's the one bringing it up. We're not bringing it up.
Yeah. We never fucking said it, dude. You're the one who's saying it, man. Like, it's really concerning. And honestly, he said it like 2 or 3 times over the past 2 days. Over the past 2 days. Like, can you imagine if Joe Biden had said, like, a lot of people are saying they want me to be a dictator? Like, Fox News and MAGA would have had a fucking complete meltdown, the likes of which have never been seen before in American history. So, what he's really doing, Micah, is he's soft launching the dictatorship. He's saying a lot of people want it to happen, which, as we know, it's just, that's just him.
He's like, but
That's
not
him
me.
saying that he wants it to happen.
I
Yeah,
don't want
not
to be
me. Yeah, and the thing that's so crazy is that in that clip, he goes, I don't want to be a dictator. I'm a really smart person. I have a lot of common sense. And like, I don't know, man, if you have to say it, it's probably not true, first of
He
all. Like, I
posted
don't.
a picture of him with a crown on his head, and
Yeah.
the title on it was "Long Live the King," dude. Like,
How many people do you
people.
know? How many smart people do you know that go around saying, I'm a smart person? Like, I feel like if you have to say it, you're not, right? Or you're trying to be.
He's handing out Trump 2028 hats. That's a violation of the Constitution. So
In the
he's
Oval
literally.
Office.
We'll put up some pictures of this right now. He's putting posters of his face up on the sides of buildings like it's Kim Jong-un. It's not just one, it's multiple. Who does this? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, Sam. It's interesting because I remember back during COVID. Remember COVID? Whenever we said, hey guys, you should wear masks, right? Because we're in a pandemic, right? And it turns out that you got to actually do things to like not spread viruses when you're in a pandemic. And you know what they told us? They said this is draconian, Orwellian, 1984 communist fascism. This is the most authoritarian thing ever. And like, I'm going to fight to my death to like not wear a cloth over my face. You're suffocating me. Meanwhile, right now, The president of the United States is talking about being a dictator. He's putting his face on the side of buildings. He's turning the Capitol building into Versailles. He's sending the military on American streets, and he just, via executive order, decided, like a king, via decree, that the constitutional protection of the First Amendment doesn't actually count for flags anymore, despite the fact the Supreme Court explicitly said it does. How is this not 1984?
I do want to talk about the hanging his tarp over the side of a building more, because that's not something that we can just like skip past. That's like straight out of like a Hunger Games movie or something, where like President Snow's face is like off the side of a building. But what you just said about Donald Trump, if you didn't see it, we'll play the clip. He does these executive order signings where he has like his guy who's like just balding and he looks like a little rat boy. That guy goes and he goes, "What is this one? What's this bill? Or what's this law?" And the guy goes like, he just like goes on this like diatribe of like just the woke radical left pieces of shit are destroying our country. And like in the Oval Office, they're saying this, and then Trump goes, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll sign it." Like this is the first time he's hearing it, but Trump thinks that he can just make up laws in the Oval Office and then sign it. That's not how the country works. That's how a dictatorial monarchy works. Like that's how the United Kingdom or Great Britain worked, that we had the American Revolution against, where the King
Right.
of England, King George, would just decide one day, wake up and go, "You know what? Fuck these colonists. New tax. And you know what? Fuck these colonists. You're going to jail if you say anything negative about me." That's what Trump is doing. He's trying to say that if you burn an American flag, which, you know what? You have the damn right to do that if you want to, right? If you want to burn an American flag, you have the right to do it. That's what being an American citizen is. You have the freedom of speech, the protections that the Constitution gives you to go and do that. But according to Trump, he doesn't need Congress to pass that law. He'll just go do it himself. And this arbitrary, not 10 years, not 1 month, but 1 year, like, where is he getting even 1 year from? He's just pulling it out of his ass, essentially. And anyone who's going, any Republican or MAGA commentator who's going with this, you are not serious about freedom of speech, and you never were.
Well, yeah. So it's the free speech administration, right? We've been hearing about free speech since like 2014, 2015. The far left hates free speech, right? Because they don't think that we should invite Tucker Carlson or some other like random Holocaust deniers off the street and speak at a university campus, right? That is big leftist censorship, okay? Not giving people microphones to say crazy stuff. Meanwhile, though, it is patriotic, free speech, pro freedom to put people in jail for expressions of their political views. I love it. And this is the only attack on free speech that's happened under this administration. We have the government telling companies like YouTube that they need to keep Fox News. They need to make a deal with Fox News in order to be in a good position with the regulators that oversee them. We have companies that are working on mergers and acquisitions where the government tells them, if you don't have fair speech guidelines, if you don't treat this administration fairly, we're not going to approve your merger and acquisition. We have an executive order saying that any immigrant that's legally here can be deported if they have anti-American speech, which we know is speech that's against this administration. And people still have the audacity to pretend like this is the party of free speech, as if anything the Democrats or anybody on the left has ever done has been 1% as much of an infringement as what they're doing every single day.
Yeah, and when you come to think of it, like these people are just like they're children, they're clowns who are in the Oval Office and who are running the upper echelons of our government. Because MAGA loyalist, Trump advisor, Charlie Kirk tweeted out today after Trump had signed this executive order making it illegal to burn the American flag. Charlie Kirk tweeted out, and we'll put it on screen right now, that actually it should be legal to burn LGBTQ or BLM flags. That is legal, right? So it's a selective crime. So only the American flag is the one that's protected.
What if it's a slightly modified American flag, right? Like what if it's an American flag with 49 stars, right? Can we burn that one? What if it's missing a stripe? What if it's the wrong shade of red, right? Where's the line for this? Or perhaps instead of regulating people's speech, we recognize that this is a goddamn free country. If
Yep.
you're an American citizen and you wanna protest the direction that this country's been taken in, which is to hell in a handbasket, and you wanna take a flag that you bought, it's your property, and burn it in a safe way, doesn't mean that we all have to agree with the symbolism of what you're doing, but it's your goddamn right to do it. Isn't that what this country is all about? We just say, "You
And
know what? You know what? F off." Like, I don't have to like what you're doing to say that you have the right to do it. Meanwhile, not only are they gonna use government force to lock these people up, but they're gonna make us pay for their imprisonment. I don't wanna pay $40,000 a year and miss out on all the tax revenue of all the people that we're gonna have to lock up because of these speech and thought crimes. That that's ridiculous.
the part about this that is so deeply like irritating to me and it makes me want to fucking throw up is that Trump has all of these pictures of the founding fathers in his Oval Office. He has George Washington and James Madison and all of these people, Ben Franklin, all these architects of the American Constitution and the way that this country operates. And he actually has the Declaration of Independence on his wall. Mind you, there's a drape over it because he's clearly not fucking looking at that thing. But the entire Declaration of Independence, basically, if we had to summarize it in one sentence, it would be like, "We're doing our own thing. We're done with your bullshit. We're done with you controlling us." And Trump decides that with all these statues of all these founding fathers, that he cares about them so much. He wants to respect the ideals of Americanism, and he wants to make the Smithsonian teach real American history. He himself has zero understanding of American history because with every waking minute and moment of this guy's presidency, he does the most anti-American, undemocratic things ever, ever. I mean, it's like a comedy show. Like it would be on SNL.
Like, does anybody actually think that Trump is like a real George Washington fan, right? Or like like Trump is reading history books, right? Like it seems
I couldn't imagine how you'd think that,
well,
but there's
you know
some
what?
people who do.
Maybe he's gone to the PragerU, like, museum
Oh,
that they've established in
yeah.
government property, which that really exists. PragerU, the right-wing, YouTube channel, fake university that you probably received a bunch of ads from them over the past 10 years of them pushing their narratives. Yeah, now the government is, sanctioning their educational resources by providing public property for them to establish their own museum because clearly the Smithsonian and other secular institutions are biased because they talk about bad things like slavery, which is something that Trump explicitly said recently is something they need to work on. They've been talking about slavery a little bit too much. Um, I don't know if he knows. Maybe he just doesn't know that that's actually like a big deal, like, for a lot of people in this country.
So what you're specifically referring to, for those of you who somehow didn't hear this, is kind of insane. One of the craziest things that he did, I would say, in his entire administration, Trump took a big problem with the Smithsonian, not because they were being mean to Trump, but because they were saying that slavery was bad. And Trump said that the Smithsonian is woke for saying that slavery is bad. Is that a winning policy position to say that actually slavery is good? Like, what is he trying to say here? Is he advocating for it? We have no idea. It's like
Well,
I
Sam,
can't wrap my head around it.
the message is always, we have to talk about the Confederacy. We actually have to wave Confederate flags and have Confederate murals and statues because we need to remember our history, right? History is so important. But if you want to talk about slavery or Harriet Tubman or basically any black person in history ever, we can't do that, right? Because that says something negative about us. And we shouldn't do that. The only negative stuff that we should keep around is statues of like Robert E. Lee or something. I
And what about January 6th or the two Trump impeachments? Are those American history that we're keeping, or are we getting
no,
rid
no,
of
no,
those?
those are not actually very explicitly,
Oh, okay.
very explicitly. You said, like I think what was it, the Smithsonian that he told them get rid of the kind of language that mentions his impeachments. It's
Yep.
remarkable. Like it's I don't know, maybe we're desensitized to it. Maybe it's the fact that, like, a lot of Americans think liberals overreact that, like, makes them kind of turn their ears off whenever we say these things, but it's like, "Guys, like, isn't this crazy? Can we just have a reality check right now about what's going on?" Like, the president of the United
Well,
States
yeah.
doesn't like some facts about his history, and so he just goes to the museums that are supposed to be these independent institutions, and he says, yeah, why don't you just rewrite the history? Why don't you get rid of these elements? Why don't you whitewash all the history about me? I think that's problematic. Something else I think is problematic is a video that we're about to show y'all from Stephen Miller, where he says what he thinks about the Democratic Party. Check out this clip.
Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago. They've shut down the police department. They've handcuffed law enforcement. And as President Trump says, they have turned the streets of Chicago into a bloody killing field. Here in Washington, D.C., before President Trump launched the federal law enforcement liberation in D.C., there was a murder on the streets of this town every other day. Body after body after body after body. That was Washington, D.C. Afraid to go to restaurants. They were afraid to go into entire neighborhoods.
True.
They were getting carjacked right and left, robbed and beaten. That was Washington, D.C. Now we're 2 weeks homicide free, the safest the city has ever been in its entire history.
Damn right,
And
bro.
the Democrats, instead of jumping up and down and saying, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for saving our lives. Thank you for saving our cities. Thank you for scrubbing away all the graffiti.
I can't do it anymore.
So,
I'm sorry, I have to
it's
stop.
like Chicago was literally like Yemen, dude. Like you were getting drone strikes. Like, when you walk out your front door, shot, dead. Like you couldn't even leave. People weren't wearing jewelry. People weren't wearing they were wearing like body armor, right?
Well, if you listen to Fox News, people really believe that, Micah. They think that it's like a war zone. The
No,
nation's capital.
Conservatives believe that. I mean, it's just like during the BLM protest, they said like, dude, like Kenosha's on fire. Like the entire city is on. There's no city anymore. All the buildings burned down. It's like
everything's
like
gone.
actually like things are pretty normal. But I think I want to zero in on when he says that the Democratic Party is basically a domestic terrorist organization, because language like that he repeats relentlessly, and it serves a very specific purpose. It's trying to normalize this idea that the Democrats don't need to be treated like an opposition party, which they actually are. Instead, they can be treated like some sort of criminal entity. And what do you do to criminals, right? You arrest them. And
Yeah,
that's not
exactly
just that Trump's posting videos of Obama being arrested, right? We've talked about that in the past. Tulsi Gabbard is talking about Adam Schiff committing mortgage fraud, right? This Democratic senator. They're going down the list and finding bullshit justifications. They're using every single rhetorical tool in the toolbox to prepare us to manufacture consent for the highest up Democrats to be arrested. And everybody should be able to call that out. Do we really want to live in a country where those in power weaponize the state to absolutely decimate their opposition? I don't think so.
Well, and of course, this is part of the MAGA movement's long-standing grand plan to essentially politically prosecute all of their enemies and jail all of the Democrats that are in power right now. The director of the FBI, Kash Patel, published a book in which this guy is the director of the FBI. He said enemies of the deep state, and it was essentially every single person who had ever criticized Trump that is like a very nationally known figure. And just the other day, just 2 days ago, one of the people on that list, John Bolton, who was a former Trump appointee, he ended up speaking out against Trump, rightfully so. The FBI went and raided his house, basically. That is one of the first examples of real political prosecution that we've gotten so far in this country. And it comes after actually Democrats have been arrested. If you remember, Senator Alex Padilla of California, a notable Democrat, was arrested for asking, I think it was Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security. He asked her a question in a manner in which that was unacceptable to ask a question at a public press conference. And that was deserving of him being tackled and put in handcuffs on the ground, like he's I don't know, maybe like he's a January 6th domestic terrorist, people who actually assaulted police officers and broke the windows of the nation's Capitol building, and who smeared their feces all over the wall of the Speaker of the House's office, Nancy Pelosi. Of course, they pardon those people. The real domestic terrorists are the ones who are saying bad things about Trump that he doesn't like.
Absolutely. And the response they have whenever we bring up this point, right? We point to one of the billion things that they've done. Let me give you one other example, folks, just for those of you who've forgotten. The fact that they're building up a centralized database using the private security company Palantir, putting together all the information that they have on Americans, including their voting history, your party registration, compiling everything into a master database, which I'm sure they won't use in any sort of problematic way. Of course, they will. They absolutely will. Whenever we point out all of these authoritarian actions, all the times they're weaponizing the Department of Justice and all the tools in the government against Democrats, what do they say? They say, here's the mugshot of Trump being arrested. Here's the mugshots of all these other Republicans. Don't you see, Micah, that this actually all started with the Democrats? The Democrats first weaponized justice. Now, here's my question to those folks. Did Trump commit crimes? Did he serve time for those crimes? The answer is yes, he did commit crimes. He tried to coup the government of the United States. Do we forget that not only was it January 6th, but there was a whole entire fake elector scheme where he tried to ignore the real outcomes of the Electoral College and put in fake illegitimate electors and recognize those results instead. Do we forget that he called in Georgia a senior election official and asked them to give him more votes so that he could win the election? If we wanted to go down the list of different examples of evidence showing that he was trying to overturn a democratic election, we would be here for 10 hours. And so, did he serve any time for that? No. He didn't even get a conviction for that. The Department of Justice delayed the case on this for so long out of weakness, out of this idea that if we're light on them, they'd be light on us. If we ignore their crimes, it will be good for stability. Well, guess what? We ignored their crimes, and they still are weaponizing justice against us in the most intense way possible. We should have prosecuted the criminals. I'll show you. We'll put up the tweet of this right now. A lot of people they're posting these photos. All these Republicans that were arrested. A lot of these people were fake electors. These were conspirators in the cooing of our government. They tried to overturn an election illegally. And what did they face? Almost zero consequences. Trump committed massive financial frauds. He committed a litany of other crimes. Did he serve any time? That mugshot, they talk about this mugshot. He got out the next day. He got convicted of felonies. And did he serve any prison time? No. Anybody else, if we got convicted of dozens of felonies, we'd be in jail right now. And they want to talk about how justice is unfair to them. The justice system is extremely partial to the Republican Party. They are the beneficiaries of a Democratic Party which is weak, which wants to play by a different set of rules for Republicans because we know they can't follow the basic rules. And what did we get for that? We got nothing. We got no credit. And now we have the most authoritarian weaponized justice system in American history.
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, and that's really what you touched on is one of the most hypocritical parts of this entire administration. Every day that Trump says we're going to send the National Guard to Chicago to get all the criminals out, and he says we need a federal takeover of the D.C. Police Department, and we need to send the National Guard into D.C. to get all the criminals out. Dude, you're the fucking criminal. You're the only one that I can see who has 34 felonies who's walking around D.C., right? You're the guy. You're the criminal. I don't know any of these immigrants that you're pointing to. I don't know if Kilmar Abreu Garcia has 6 bankruptcies and had a huge swath of financial crimes that he avoided prison time for. Like, that dude essentially is just here to provide for his family and to just do right by the country, right? You're the criminal in question here, man. So, I mean, when we're pointing fingers at all these people picking strawberries in the fields and sending ice at them and shoving them in the vans because they're suddenly criminals, you and your administration are the people that I see committing crimes, right?
Right. And if hiring undocumented immigrants is so bad, why has Trump been held civilly liable for hiring undocumented immigrants for his own construction projects? It's been proven in court a lot. So if it's really so bad, then why have you benefited from that system? Guys, there's one other thing that we need to talk to you about today. Trump has a new policy for the United States, okay? I know that it sounded like we're anti-immigration, like he opposes this whole immigration thing, but he actually has an exception. You know, he has a soft spot in his heart for immigrants from really what is America's closest ally, and that is, of course, China. Trump recently announced that he's going to let in 600,000 Chinese students. Let's play the clip.
President Xi would like me to come to China. It's a very important relationship. As you know, we're taking a lot of money in from China because of the tariffs and different things, and it's a very important relationship. We're going to get along good with China. I hear so many stories about we're not going to allow their students, or we're going to allow their students to come in. We're going to allow. It's very important. 600,000 students. It's very important. But we're going to get along with China. But it's a different relationship that we have now with China. It's a much better relationship economically than it was before. With Biden, boy, what he allowed that, I mean, they just took him to the cleaners, you know?
So, Sam, I have a question for you. How many current Chinese students do you think that we have in the United States?
Maybe like a couple 100,000, maybe.
270,000.
Okay.
600,000 is an interesting departure from our existing policy, especially when we found that actually some Chinese immigrants have actually been of suspect loyalty to the United States. Now, I'm not anti-Chinese student immigrants. I just find it very interesting that the general policy of this administration is to cut legal immigration all over the place, except in these really rare one-off instances in which it seems like the position has completely changed. And here's my theory that I like to advance. I don't think that Trump has much of an ideology. I know I'm going to break a lot of brains in saying this. I think Trump is actually a very impressionable guy because it seems like his views largely match whoever he last spoke to. So when it comes to Ukraine, for instance, he talks to Zelensky. Oh man, what Russia's doing is terrible. He talks to Putin. What Russia's doing is awesome. What Zelensky's doing is terrible. And it seems like on the immigration question, he bounces around between talking to business people who like immigrants because they benefit from immigration and Stephen Miller, who thinks that all immigrants are evil invaders that are destroying the blood of our country. I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
Well, your theory is not just a theory, it's the truth, because what you just said, that Trump will take the opinion of the last person that he spoke to, that has been widely reported on by many a journalist, many reporters, many people who have worked in the Trump administration. Bob Woodward famously wrote a book which Trump threw a gasket over, one of the first books. Woodward has done 4 books about Trump so far, I'm pretty sure, and the first one heavily was talking about how during I think it was maybe the second one about COVID, how Trump would just like switch his thinking depending on which advisor would talk to him last. And other advisors who were under the impression that he was going with what they were saying would be like, what? They would like find out from via tweet that Trump was actually going with a different thing. And like, I'm just kind of sitting here like, to any of these like young MAGA guys out there that love his like alpha male dominant status, like, is it really that alpha male to just be like, get steamrolled by every single person that you talk to, and like, I'll talk to this guy today, maybe he'll tell me, maybe I'll do what he says, and then I'll talk to this guy and he'll tell me something completely opposite, and I'll just do that. Like, fuck it, who gives a shit anymore, right? Who cares that I'm the president, and who cares? But I mean, nothing matters anymore, right? Like, I can fire someone by tweet, I could I could do whatever the fuck I want, and nothing matters anymore. And so that's essentially kind of what irks me so much about this, right? Is that Trump can actually do whatever he wants. He doesn't have any fear of repercussions. There's no checks over his power. He thinks he can sign legislation by just waking up one day and taking a shit and then just being like, okay, this is a law now, fuck it. That's deeply harmful to our stature around the world. Like, to other European countries who are looking at the United States as a world superpower, we have been essentially reduced to a global laughingstock because Trump, if he talks to Putin one day, he goes, man, you know what? Ukraine sucks. And then he talks to Zelensky the next day and he goes, man, fuck Putin. What the hell is wrong with this guy?
I know.
And that's
it's
what it comes
remarkable,
down to.
like how big the back and forth is going. Like, guys, I invite you just like go on Trump's Truth Social. Okay, it's a fun time, I swear, and just look up the word Ukraine and see, like, the huge vibe shifts.
Oh my
It's
god,
like
it's
a seismic change. I mean, on immigration, we've seen this so much too because
he called Zelensky a dictator. Don't forget, like he's went from calling Zelensky a
but
dictator
but
to
we
then
know
like the
that
next week.
that's not really a problem for him, though. Like, maybe he didn't
Oh
mean it
yeah,
like that,
yeah. I
you know?
guess people want dictators, right? Yeah.
But, like, on the issue of immigration, some of y'all might remember this. In the campaign, he talked about giving a, green card to every single student in the United States who's on a student visa who graduates with a degree.
Oh
He says, "We're gonna
yeah,
staple green cards to the degree." I was like, "That's based." I agree
yeah.
with that. Listen, if somebody's gonna come get a degree at an American institution, we might as well keep them. Why send them back somewhere else? You know, that's kind of dumb.
Right.
But then he did a reversal on that same policy. He said, "Actually, I didn't mean that." Within 24 hours, his campaign had to release a statement about this. They can't tell whether they support H-1B visas or not because he says, "I love H-1Bs. I hire a bunch of H-1Bs at my businesses." He
Yeah.
actually has H-2Bs, different visa workers for his
He doesn't
hotels.
even know he doesn't know what's going on, Mike. He has no idea.
But members of his administration simultaneously were saying, "Oh, these immigrants, these guys are stealing American jobs." Howard Lutnick said on CNN just like the other day regarding this China policy of taking in 600,000 Chinese students that we just talked about. He said that this was necessary. This was actually a genius policy by Trump. For what reason? Well, because if we didn't have these Chinese students filling up the top spots at American universities, then American students would be filling up those spots, which would means that all of the bottom universities in America, they wouldn't have enough students. They would close. um, Remarkable. That's Howard Lutnick in that same, like, CNN or Fox News interview was saying that H-1B visa immigrants are stealing American jobs. But the Chinese immigrants are not stealing American seats. No, that's cool. That kind of immigration is cool. There's different the Trump administration's logic is one of constant contradiction. That's what's so Orwellian about it. They don't even have a specific agenda. They don't even have like a specific ideology to put forward. It's the whims of one man and it's a circus and everyone is pretending like it makes sense. Whatever he says is law, even if it's the exact opposite of what he said yesterday. It doesn't matter how crazy it
Yep.
looks. Trust me, it's 40, 50, 60 chess. Trump can do no wrong. That's why we say this is a cult. It's a religion. It's not even
Yeah.
about an ideology anymore. This isn't conservatism. This isn't nationalism. This is a party of Trumpism, which doesn't even have a discrete ideological definition.
He's a beta. He just does whatever anyone closest to him says. You know what? So the last thing we'll say is the no better example of Trump's flip-flopping than the Epstein files, which we still have not forgotten about. Trump, during the entire campaign, he said over and over and over again, every single day, 3 times a day, 5 times a day, every single campaign stop, release the Epstein files. Bill Clinton's in the Epstein files. Joe Biden's in the. We got to release them. And on day 1, I'm going to release the Epstein files. And all of us were like, dude, you're fucking in the Epstein files. What are you talking about? And sure enough, Trump comes into office. And what does he do? Doesn't release them on day 1 or day 2 or week 2 or month 2. He never releases them. He
Well,
now
they're
he's
fake.
saying. Right. So now he's went from saying that they're important and we're going to release them to they don't exist and actually I'm not in them and they do exist, but Joe Biden planted them but then Joe Biden didn't plant them and they don't exist anymore. And like we don't even know what he's saying because now the MAGA talking point is that it doesn't matter. What the fuck? Those files don't matter. What are you crazy to? That was old news, dude. You're crazy to think that those are important, and that really just is not good for the country, man.
It sucks that there's like a bunch of elite pedophiles running around that are being protected by this administration. I think it's just another example that there's like 15 different talking points out there on the Epstein files. They're
Yeah.
fake. All the victims are actually Democrats that are making up their stories. They're real, but they don't really matter. Or, you know, like there is real stuff, but there's also fake stuff. It's a billion different things. But here's the thing. They don't care about it being a consistent story. None of the MAGA people even care about the truth or any of the sort of the victims. It's just that we're the good guys. The Democrats are the
Yeah.
bad guys. And whatever talking point sounds best in this moment that we can use, we'll use. But we don't really care about whether any of them are true. And I think
Yeah.
that's bad. And if you think that's bad too, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Siren, and the Micah Irfan YouTube channel. Follow the Siren. We're going to be producing content like this all the time. And me and Sam are making this show weekly. America Matters. That's the name. You can find us on all
That's right.
platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe in a library. Maybe there's just a book with the transcripts of these. Maybe that's going to be a thing, guys. Give us enough money
I don't
and we'll
know.
make it happen. I
It
don't know
it
what you need.
it might not be a thing because I think Trump doesn't really like libraries, or maybe he'll defund them at some
There
point. We
there'll
don't really
be
have
no
to see.
libraries, but, maybe, like, in this the stack of books that are gonna be burned, you'll find a copy of America Matters right there.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with you next week.